Hello, hello. So let's see what we got going on over here. All right, it says here relationship status influences heterosexual women's sexual prejudice towards lesbians. What? A recent study published in Journal of Social Psychology has unearthed intriguing findings regarding sexual prejudice, the negative attitudes people may harbor towards others based on their sexual orientation. Okay, there. I think at this point, these psychologists might as well be mind readers. Like everyone just has some hidden uh, thoughts and prejudice towards certain people and blah blah blah. The study found evidence that heterosexual women's attitudes towards lesbian women are influenced by whether the lesbians are in a relationship. Why and how did you come to that conclusion? The findings indicate that heterosexual women tend to distance themselves more socially from single lesbians compared to those in relationships. Probably because those single lesbians are hitting on them or flirting with them. With this behavior mediating by concerns over uh, unwanted sexual advances. But what? Heterosexual women does do the exact same thing to men. So when they do it to men, it's not a hidden bias or something like that, or a hidden prejudice. When they do it to women, now it's a hidden prejudice. Couldn't it just be the same reaction towards someone that might possibly be interested in them in a sexual way? It's just interestingly, the relationship status of gay men did not influence the reactions of study participants. Obviously, because gay men aren't interested in them. You, you have all the clues. You just can't put it together. The common denominator is the other person's possible attraction towards them. It's not a mystery. Come on now. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes. In recent years, the visibility of committed gay and lesbian couples have increased, especially following the U.S. Supreme Court's affirmation of same sex marriage as a constitutional right in 2015. Marriage is in the Constitution? Well, okay. Despite a growing acceptance reflected in national surveys, stereotypes linking heterosexuality with sexual promiscuity persists. It persists because it's mainly sexual. Like, for instance, if someone was attracted to animals, I would assume that they sleep with a lot of animals, not just one particular animal that they're in love with. But if they're in a relationship, then I would assume that they have tamed the beast. This stereotypes can lead to sexual prejudice. That's not what it is. Prior research has shown that gay and lesbian individuals often face such prejudices, but little was known about how their relationship status might affect heterosexual individuals' reaction. We were interested in whether attitudes towards gay and lesbian individuals would change based on their relationship status, said study author Corey L. Cook, an associate professor of psychology at Pacific Lutheran University and Humboldt Research Fellow at the University of Cologne. Okay. Most research simply examines sexual prejudice, i.e., prejudice towards sexual minority groups and their members. Well, the most prejudiced group are the minor attracted individual. What I think that's what it's called. Well, the pedophile towards aggregated groups, aggregated, okay. We thought that there might be a key information missing based on whether a target individual is single or coupled. The research consisted of three separate experiments involving 939 heterosexual undergraduates. Why 939? Students from a large southwestern U.S. university. The core of each study was a vignette-based experimental design where participants were randomly assigned to different conditions. Each participant read a brief description, a vignette, about a hypothetical fellow student named Mark or Mary, and the vignettes were crafted to manipulate two key variables that target students' relationship status, single, in a relationship, or unspecified, and their sexual orientation. Oh, just the two. To manipulate these variables, the vignettes described the target's life in a manner that subtly indicated their sexual orientation and relationship status. For example, descriptions like very supportive of his decision to come out of the closet indicated that Mark was gay. No shit. Or he just loves being in closets until there was an intervention. Whereas phrases like currently in a steady romantic relationship or currently single but interested in dating clarified the relationship status. Okay. After reading the vignette, participants completed the social distancing scale, a psychological tool used to measure the extent to which an individual desires to maintain social distance from the target described in the vignette. This scale indicates items that assess attitudes like likability and avoidance tendencies. Okay, so it just pretty much indicates that in the absence of actually knowing the person and speaking to them, that they might just go off the information that they were provided with. For instance, that the person is single and they're possibly attracted to them and of the same sex. You know, that bland description of a person might be something you want to distance with because you might not have anything in common and you might not be interested in dating them or flirting with them or anything like that. So it makes sense. The researchers found that heterosexual men exhibited greater social distances towards gay men compared to heterosexual men. No shit. Regardless of the gay men's relationship status. No shit. This indicates a baseline level of sexual prejudice that did not fluctuate with changes in perceived relationship status of the gay men. Ah, you simply don't understand men. We just don't do stuff like that. We don't just try to make friends with each other. If we meet a dude and it's cool, we talk, whatever, but we don't go out of our way to like meet new people. So men would be most likely to just be like, oh, who the hell is this? I don't care. Uh, why would I want to talk to this person? For heterosexual women, however, the results indicated no significant differences in social distances towards gay men based on their relationship status, suggesting that women's reactions were not influenced by whether a gay man was single or in a relationship. Or gay men are known to be besties with women and they have similar interests, especially in who they're attracted to. And they're also men, so they're more interesting to talk to. Findings regarding lesbian women were more complex and varied by gender of participants. Heterosexual men display less social distancing toward single lesbian women compared to those in relationships. Interesting that. Very interesting. Turns out that the opposite sex tend to still be interested in each other, regardless of how the other person feels. Oh, God. Heterosexual men display less social okay. This response might influence by the stereotype or fantasy held by some heterosexual. Oh, so now you're demonizing the men. The women, you were like ready to celebrate them. You're just like, oh, the women don't distance. But now the men are just like, oh my God. Stereotype of fantasies held by some heterosexual men that single lesbian women might be sexually available or interested in men, which could increase perceived opportunities for sexual liaisons. No, that's not what it is. They just don't care. They're going to try anyways. Get rejected by, you get rejected by a straight woman or a gay woman is the same thing. In contrast, heterosexual women reported increased social distancing from single lesbian women compared to those in relationships. This increased social distancing was significantly mediated by the heterosexual women's perceptions of undesired sexual interest from single lesbian targets. The key finding is that sexual prejudice are based in part on perceptions of threats or opportunities associated with the target of prejudice. No shit. We found that heterosexual women reported increased social distancing towards single lesbians because they were perceived to pose a threat of unwanted sexual interest. But heterosexual men reported decreased social distancing towards single lesbians who were potentially seen as sexual opportunities. Congratulations. You played yourself. You figured out what you could have figured out with common sense. We were surprised by the fluctuations in heterosexual women's responses towards single lesbians. Yeah, that is mildly surprising. Mildly. But after seeing the data, be like, yeah, that makes sense. Much of the sexual prejudice research suggests that women are more accepting of sexual minorities. Yes, of course they would be. Because the gay men aren't interested in them, and the lesbian women are not a physical threat to them as much. So it makes sense why they would be more accepting of that particular lifestyle, right? But for men, we don't we don't perceive uh, threats, sexual threats to a person in that way. Our research suggests that there are conditions under which heterosexual women are more likely to report sexual prejudice in case when a lesbian target is single and interested in dating. But the study, like all research, includes some caveats. Primarily, the sample consisted exclusively of undergraduate students from a large South. It's important to recognize that these findings speak to what can happen rather than what does happen. It will be important to test whether this effect holds over other samples. Well, at the end of the day, I didn't learn anything new, but it's good that they tested it and now they have actual data to back it up. But it just seems perfectly rational to me. And the use of the word prejudice is just, it's silly. It is simply natural behavior. It's natural behavior of women to perceive anyone that is attracted to them that can possibly physically overpower them or seduce them as a threat. It's just natural. It's natural. Anyways, until next time.